Ladies and gentlemen, the long-awaited, highly anticipated, almost knew at that time that we would be where we're at right now. A Northern Ireland man about town, one of the greatest goalkeepers of the old NASL, now a fabulous coach. My hero, Bill Irwin, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks for having me on, Kevin. Looking forward to our chat. Thank you, and thanks for that introduction.
Oh, yeah, man. I just want you to know I almost had your accent down when I was a teenager.
I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
Oh, it's a great thing, yes. Oh, you're like a poet. Well, it comes out to where I don't know you, you don't know me, but being a goalkeeper, we have some sense of the spirit, how you believe in that?
Yeah. Well, we have that goalkeepers union, isn't it? There's a few of us in that, so we keep in touch. There's a lot of guys that we played together and against and stuff like that. That we keep in touch. I keep in touch with some of the old guys.
Nice.
And some of the old guys I'd like to get in touch with again.
Yeah. I hope this handles. Under full disclosure, are you have been with Dave Clements?
I know Dave,
Okay.
But I've never had the privilege of playing with him or being coached by him.
Okay, then. So, you two are the Northern Ireland gang. I missed out on having Georgie Best and Pat Jennings come aboard, but
Well, unfortunately, George is no longer with us, but Pat is still around. Pat just celebrated his 80th birthday, I saw the other week. So
my gosh.
Pat's doing very well, apparently, and I think he's one of these ambassadors at Spurs.
Oh, my gosh. Well, if you know somebody that knows somebody that knows them, tell them we're certified. Just drop a line to them.
Yeah.
Oh, man, magnificent.
See what I can do.
All right, then. And under full disclosure, this is one of the reasons I have this podcast, that I wanted it, was to be able to talk to people that I admired over the years, and you were one of them, man. I mean,
well, thank you.
Yeah, you had such a presence about yourself. I mean, you weren't your a guy. You say, hey, I want to describe a great goalkeeper, and sketch artists and stuff, and your picture didn't show up.
Yeah.
but from then on, I mean, first impressions meant a lot, because it was like, holy cow, I'm seeing something I've never seen before. And congratulations on your development. How you was there somebody that you kind of copied, or somebody helped you to discover yourself?
No, I think obviously the game has changed a lot over the years. But when I was growing up, you had your heroes, and mine was like Pat Jennings was one of the ones that we mentioned, and another guy called Harry Gregg. They're both Northern Ireland internationals, and I was lucky to get to meet both of them. But you sort of develop yourself. Growing up in a little village, and in Northern Ireland, we would play. We'd play in the streets. We'd play in the park at night, and I wasn't, to get playing on the teams, I had to go and go. I wasn't as good as some of the other players as an outfield player, so I went in goals. And, you watch TV, obviously in black and white in those days, but you watch some of the stuff on TV, and you sort of were self-taught. even when I, went to play in the Irish League, we trained twice a week, but there was no goalkeeping coach. And when I went to play in England, there was no goalkeeping coach. I was a young player who went in. I got transferred I signed on the Thursday before the deadline, and I made my debut on the Saturday. And I didn't have another. There wasn't a goalkeeping coach around, so you had to learn. You sort of learned on the job. Whereas today, I mean, each club, even youth clubs, have got goalkeeping coaches to help the young goalkeepers, which I think is a good thing. So probably learned by the seat of my pants.
Right. Did you always have a soft landing around the town, or even learn how to dive on the bricks?
Oh yeah, I mean, hey, we would be out in all weathers, and in the summer it was, the fields were rock hard. There was no such thing as irrigation to the soccer fields, and we play on the street. So you got pretty beat up, but we all survived. And I tell the kids that today, hey, you'll survive.
Yeah. Yeah, I tried one time diving on the bed, and my mother ran me out of the house. That was the end of it.
Yeah, oh yeah, I would play soccer up in our landing and stuff like that with my brother, and we got yelled at, and I broke a few windows in our backyard. So
Oh,
we would you would go out on your own. You'd be kicking the ball off the wall and catching it and stuff like that. And sometimes you miss the wall and hit a window.
it happens, man.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
But
Yeah.
that international brick and a wall, a wall and a ball is all
Yeah.
you really need, man.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, there's so much you can do on your own, and unfortunately, a lot of kids today, they need a coach and they need grass. And I tell kids, get out on your own, and find a wall, obviously with no windows and stuff like that, and work on You can, as a field player, you can work on your passing. As a goalkeeper, you can be, obviously in today's game, you can work on your passing, and you can also work on, your distribution and also your handling.
Yeah.
So you don't need much to help yourself improve. It's up to the individual what they want out of the game.
So can you take us all back? We're eager to hear when you got the papers and so forth to come over to America and play it over here.
Yeah, well, I come over here in '77 on vacation. A good friend of mine that we played together at Cardiff, Willie Anderson, he was at the Portland Timbers, and he said, "Why don't you come out on vacation?" So I come out on vacation, and enjoyed it. And then I went back to the team in England, Cardiff City, and was playing away. And then I got left out of the team, and I was told that, hey, if I do well, I get back in, and I get back in. And after one game, the manager left me out again. I wasn't very happy about it, so I went knocking on his door and told him I wanted it to get away. And he said, "Where do you want to go?" I said, "Go anywhere to get away from you." And so I had some contacts in the States, and those people made contacts, and then Washington Diplomats came and had an interest, and there was communication between them and the club. And one day it was on, the next day it was off, the next day it was on again, the next day it was off. I don't know what was going on. It was probably, I don't know, over the fee or whatever, which I never find out what it was. But that's the nature of the beast. So, and then I eventually signed for the Washington Diplomats. So I flew over, and I think it was in March, and I think my first introduction to soccer over here was an indoor game, which was totally foreign because it was that time of year. And then we went into pre-season, You know, we were in, I think, somewhere like El Paso for preseason and stuff like that, and then
Wow.
on the West Coast. So I was lucky enough to, you know, come in and play for the Washington Diplomats for 3 years, and you know, got the pleasure of playing with some very, very good players. You know, two players that won the FA Cup, and Jim Steele and Bobby Stokes with Southampton. Bobby Stokes, you know, scoring one of the goals that won the cup for them, and then eventually ended up playing with some World Cup players. Um, Johan Cruyff was a teammate. Wayne Jansen was a teammate. You know, at Washington. So you know, I got the privilege of playing with those guys and some other very, very good players. And I think a friend of yours, Don Drogi, came to the team. Bob Arucci, you know, a lot of young American players who were very good. Sonny Askew, you know, who all went on to play for the US and who were very good young players at the time.
Oh man, yeah.
So that's how I came over here, and you know, then that was in 78, in March of 78, and you know, the league, you know, there was some, as you know, there was some very, very good players. Like Pelé had just retired from the Cosmos, and you had Beckenbauer and you know, the Brazilian centre back. I can't think of his name right off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Carlos Alberto.
Oh,
You know,
name dropper.
and you know,
Yeah.
Neeskens and you know, there
Oh,
was
yeah.
loads, Eskandarian and stuff like that. You know, all these players.
Yeah.
And then you know, we had even more at all the other clubs. You know, way too many to think of everybody, but there were a lot of like national team players from all different countries, and so it was great experience, and the league was doing well. And then all of a sudden, you know, the Washington Diplomats, the owners decided to pull the plug. You know, and we were averaging 20,000 people a game, so that was a bit of a shock. You know, and then went from there to Dallas Tornado, or I think it was they picked up my contract, and I was there for a year. You know, and Lamar Hunt, you know, he was the owner there, and he, you know, we didn't have a great season, and I think they pulled the plug there.
There you go.
And then I think Tampa Bay picked up my contract, but I never went to Tampa Bay. They told me to sit in Dallas and wait, and I think they traded me to the Portland Timbers, which was fine because, you know, my wife, I married a lady from Portland, so that was a good move. So we came here for a year, had a good year in Portland, you know, and then they folded, and I went to San Jose.
Wow.
You know, where I had again the luxury of playing with a lot of very, very good players like Chris Dangerfield, Zungo, Stan Telecki from Poland, you know, and there was a guy from Hungary.
Yeah.
And then there's a few Canadian guys, Carmen Marcantonio, Bob Arucci, you know, and you know, those guys were around. And
how about the Demling brothers? Had they have moved on?
The Demlings had left at that time. You know, but I did have the pleasure of meeting them a few times, and ended up meeting them last year at the 50-year reunion, the 50-year anniversary of the earthquakes.
Beautiful.
And then the Timbers have their 50-year anniversary this year, and they had a function the other night at the game where they celebrated the original Timbers from the team in '75.
Wow.
So it was nice to see. There was 11, I think, of the original 18 there on the field. So I was sitting in the stands watching those guys get all the adulation that they deserve, you know.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Man. Well, bring me and my friends back to that time you walked into the manager's office. Did you have a spirit of saying, hey, this is going to work out on my favor, or are there only going to be one guy walking out of here?
No, it was one of those, where he had said, hey, if you get in the team again and you do well, you'll keep your place. So he didn't keep his word, and I was pissed. So I
Yeah.
went in and I says, hey, I want away. Don't care where, I didn't know anything about. I didn't know if America would work out at that time or whatever.
Yeah.
He said, you know, I'd been in contact with my friend Willie Anderson and stuff like that. And then another good friend of mine had just left too. Clive Charles had just gone to the Portland Timbers. So,
Wow.
um, I had lots of contacts and lots of people's brains to pick.
Yeah.
And they said it's great over here. It was great in the States. Blah blah blah. Because Clive had been over here in I think 76 or 77 with Montreal. And those guys all, come back, loving it. And so
Yeah.
I said, hey, I want to go to America. And he says, anywhere. I said, look, I'll just go anywhere, as long as I'm away from you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it
Well,
wasn't a pleasant conversation. And don't get me wrong, I love playing at Cardiff City. I love the city. I love the fans. I got along great there. I had a lot of friends. I still got friends that live in the area. Players I played with, are still in the area, and and a few that I'm still in contact with on a regular basis.
yeah, a goalkeeper's got to do what a goalkeeper's got to do, huh?
Yeah, I mean, there's only one position we can go into, so
Yeah.
whereas a field player, they can maybe squeeze you in. If you're an outside back, maybe you can go play
Yeah.
in the middle, or in a six or something like that, or maybe you're a six and you can play as an outside back, or maybe you're a 10 and maybe you can go into a 9, or and maybe if you're a 7 you can go back to a 2, or 11 back to a 3, or vice versa.
Yeah.
you know it's just, but in goals, that's your position.
Yeah. It seems like Portland, Oregon has really, I mean, you and Portland, Oregon became friends. I mean, your buddy Clive Charles there, and you met your wife.
Yeah. Portland. We, obviously I came here on vacation at first in '77, and then left, and then I got married not long after that to my wife, and we ended up in a few cities, or a few, Washington D.C.,
Yeah.
Dallas, Portland, San Jose, and then a little bit of indoor at Wichita and Minnesota. So, but Portland was always going to be somewhere we were going to come back to because of my wife.
Right.
And I one day I come back. I was back here, and the opportunities weren't as great as they are today for the players today. I mean, your NASL and MISL, and I think that was about it.
Oh, yeah.
So today there's so many more opportunities for players that. So I come back here and give Clive a call, and he was coaching. He had just started the job at the University of Portland. He says, "Hey, do you want to come help me?" I says, "All right." So, and then that was pretty much how I ended up at the University of Portland, and stayed here. And we had a good. Him and I had a great relationship. He was the boss and I was the assistant, but we had a great relationship, and
Yeah.
we went on to do very well. And,
Yeah.
It's a shit for me. It's just thinking, just probably diversion a little bit here, that he is not in the Soccer Hall of Fame, Clive Charles. He should be. I don't understand
Absolutely.
why not, because he's been one of our most successful national team coaches, taking the Olympic team to a bronze medal game, and unfortunately they lost that. So I think he's been one of the better coaches that I feel has been overlooked for this Hall of Fame, and I don't understand,
Yeah.
who's making those decisions.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Totally agree. It's guys like Clive Charles that league exposed people to really understand about the game around the world. That it wasn't like a guy's cousin that was a third division player. These players were of significance and had good character and came over and played the
Yeah.
game. Yeah.
Yeah, these guys come over and stayed. You know, a lot of times people come and they come for a year, and then some of them, different. I'm not saying players, even administrators and stuff. They stay for a year or two and get out, make the money and get out. People like Clive and a lot of the other guys stayed
Yeah.
and you know helped the game grow. You know.
Well, both, I believe. Your bare hands and wearing gloves. Which one do you prefer?
Well, I think it's growing. I mean, when I started playing, we were wearing these little cotton gloves, and it was like when the ball got wet, but it was like catching a bar of soap in the shower. You know, the ball. And then they started. I didn't wear any the gloves like they have today until I came to America.
Yeah.
You know. But most of the time, if it was dry, it was just your hands and a little bit of spit on them,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, that's why I've got fingers pointing all over the other direction. And I think the balls were a little heavier.
Oh
at the
boy, were
time,
they?
too.
Yeah.
And so, it was just bare hands. And then when it got wet, you wore these cotton gloves. I think Peter Bonetti, a very good goalkeeper, played for England, and
Yeah.
Chelsea.
Played for the St. Louis Stars also.
Yeah, and he I think he came up with them, and so so I think gloves are great. I think obviously development has made them easier. It's easier to catch a ball, though I don't understand why a lot of the goalkeepers don't catch a ball. In some of the games I watch, they seem to just knock everything out when I feel it could be holding it. But as we know, all the good players sit in the stands. So
I'm a Hall of Famer in the stands. I'm a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. So it's just a matter of what I suppose what works. And I know the balls are different. The balls aren't probably maybe not as true as what they were years ago. They're lighter and they dip and swerve and all that. And
Yeah.
but I still probably I think with the development, I think the gloves are a good thing.
Yeah. How about the game that you have seen as a youth, as a man among men, and then coming over playing pro, and then going with you and Clive to the college game and develop that into a national champion? How was all? Did that work out for you?
Yeah, I mean, we took the experiences we had from playing with different. Clive started off at West Ham and stuff like that, and they were always synonymous with playing football or good soccer. It wasn't just they were looking to build out and stuff like that and keep possession. So he brought that in, and we were looking. He was a great man manager. Great man manager, and as I say, him and I worked very well together. Sometimes it was good cop, bad cop type thing.
Yeah.
But it worked. So
Yeah.
we wanted to play attractive attacking soccer, and I think we accomplished that. And we would attract, good players to the program, both men and women, because we had both teams.
Nice.
So it was just a matter of, and then obviously educating ourselves in the game today, educating, taking licenses and stuff like that, because, excuse me, you never stop learning,
No.
I'm watching games all the time.
Yeah.
Looking for bits and pieces and what have you. So we were always, watching games and taking bits from here and bits from there and listening to different people and, people that we knew and admired. And, I suppose we taking, different, you see different, maybe a drill here, and then you take it and you massage it in a different way and stuff like that. I suppose we did that as well, and then we come up with our own ideas.
Yeah. Hey, I have to ask you, when you saw so many changes, Were you, did you see the writing on the wall on many different types, or did it all of a sudden you woke up and say, oh my gosh, I got better to get going?
No, I mean, I think we you just, you go with the flow of the game. I mean, everything now, for a while there, everything was like Pep Guardiola. We got to play like Pep Guardiola, and I think you have to look at what you have. Yeah, we'd all love to play that way, but he's got maybe 20 of the best players in the world, so it works there. So I think we have to look at what you have. Yeah, we want to try and play, nice attacking soccer, but we have to, we have to teach the kids. We have to teach them how to the technical aspect, and then once they're technical enough, then we can get into the technical part of it.
Yeah,
And this is my opinion anyway. I mean, yeah, we all want to play, but sometimes we don't have the players to do that, so we have to adapt to a different way of playing.
Well said.
And some I mean, there's coaches out there that all they want to they want to win at all costs, but as you get older and stuff like that, it's more about, hey, let's develop some players. Results aren't the end all and be all. If we can get the players to become better, then success will follow. But you're under some of the parents, or they're sort of living their playing days through their kids, and and instead of letting the kids play and develop in their own way, they want to see medals around their necks and stuff like that. And we just want to see the players get better and better and better, And so you have to deal with parents. You got to who are get frustrated because, hey, why's my kid not playing? Well, maybe your kid doesn't come to training enough. Maybe he doesn't work hard enough. But there's many sort of distractions, if that's the right word I'm looking for here. There's an old saying out there: nothing works without the work. You're just not going to show up and win. You have to work at it. Right. And some of the kids will do everything, and some are just going to turn up. But I just want to make people better, not only as a player but as a person. So if we can instill some stuff there into it, that's what I'm still looking for today.
Yes, right. Hey, I gotta tell you, man, you could have knocked me over with a feather. I was looking forward to sending you some clips of girl goalkeepers in the area, and then the United States women's national said, "Hey, Bill, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here," type of thing. I was really shocked at that. So you now the business of soccer is unbelievable, huh?
Oh yeah. Soccer. It's big business here today. And I mean, everybody wants. As we know, the numbers going to make it all the way to the top is very, very few. And the number that start is huge, and the number that, as I said, is very small. But the key is that there's a place for everybody to play, and for me, the key is that everybody has to have fun. Oh. I think we lose too many of the young kids at an early age because they're not having fun. They have to have fun, and that'll keep them. And then it's like any sport, I suppose. American football, baseball, basketball. There's lots of kids at the entry level, but think about the top of the triangle, the pyramid. There's very few in it.
Yeah,
it's the ones that But you don't want to lose kids because they're not having fun. You know?
And us goalkeepers, man, give us a little bit of rain, give us a little mist, give us a little hot sun. We take it all, and that whole everything about everything, that's our fun. And
yeah.
And the winning and the losing, of course, comes in, but it doesn't stay. We move on. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, as a goalkeeper, if you make a mistake, it's water under the bridge, right?
Yeah.
It's what you do. You can't dwell on that mistake. You can't go around throwing temper tantrums and stuff like that and pointing fingers. You know you've made a mistake, so hey, you sort of have to block that out of your mind for the next whatever it may be. If it happens in the first 10 minutes or so, you've got another 80 minutes to play, so you have to get that out of your mind and get on with the job at hand. And then after the game, you can sit down and analyze what you did wrong and why did you cost a goal and stuff like that, and go from there. But I mean, you think about it, right? If a forward misses say a good chance, everybody will say unlucky,
Yeah.
But if a goalkeeper lets a bad goal in, everybody's on their back,
Oh yeah.
And I keep telling the kids, yeah, you're one of two things when you're playing goals. You're either a hero because you're saving everything, or a goat. Not the greatest of all time, but a goat.
Yeah.
Because everybody remembers the mistake you made. But
Yeah.
outfield players can make all the mistakes they want, and it's not magnified as much as it is in goals. So I think somebody who plays in goals has got to be strong psychologically.
Yeah. I was flying high, and a little bit too high, and my buddy said, he nicknamed me One Shot, One Goal Whale. That gave me the right size.
Yeah. No, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Bill, here you go all around, and, it's not like I'm stealing your thunder, but see if you agree with me a little bit, or what's your take of it. Is that I believe that the women's game in America, and a lot around, is better than the men's.
Well, I think I know where you're coming from because I've coached both, but I think we're comparing apples to oranges.
Okay.
Again, this is my opinion.
Absolutely.
I mean, the women's game, it's doing very, very well, and players are getting, the opportunity. There's more opportunity for these young ladies to progress in the game. There's just like on the men's side, there's a lot more avenues for them to play. There's the women's NWSL, and then there's USL, and a couple of levels of that. So it's just a different game. It's a different. I mean, it's sort of contradict myself here. It's the same game, but it's different.
Oh yes.
But the women, there's obviously there's talented players just like the men.
Uh-huh.
And I think because of the physiological differences that makes a difference in the game that you watch.
Yeah. Hey, Bill,
but I don't want to take anything. I mean, I've coached both, and I enjoy coaching both. It's for me, it's just soccer. Some people look at it as, hey, but these are women playing. No, they're soccer players.
Yeah.
They're not females. They're not female and male soccer players. They're both soccer players. So you have to treat them both the same. For me, I treated them both the same.
Nice.
Yeah, maybe you couldn't yell and scream so much at maybe some of the females, but maybe you can. And it's the same on the guy side. Some you can't. Some you can scream at, and some you can't.
There you go.
And you have to figure out who you can yell at, who you can't, and But I found that women were more receptive to information.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I hope that, the women's game continues to explode, all over the world, and that they get the equal everything that they deserve,
Yeah.
And the men's game, the men's game is getting bigger. It seems to be getting big. I mean, now we got this, World Club Championships and the World Cup qualifiers, at the minute, the Gold Cup, there's nothing but soccer. I think we need to give the players a bit of a breather in there, or we're gonna wear them out quicker,
Uh-huh. I'm not an Irish tenor, but could I get 10 more minutes with you, and then we'll wrap it
Oh
up.
yeah, you've got me as long as you want me, as long as you can put up with me.
All right then. So the situation is you're there and you look out across the vast regions of America.
Yeah.
Have you seen regions play differently, or the quality, however it goes? Do you see a blend?
I think there's a little bit of difference in each area. I think, as you said, the different regions. Because I think there's different ethnic groups have an influence in some of the play that goes on. But I see a lot of very good players. Around all over. I think there's good players all over, and I think there's good players in areas that we tend not to think as soccer areas. I think I keep telling people that we have to beat the bushes to find these players, because I think there's very, very good players in some, and I hope listeners don't take this wrong, obscure areas that are not thought of as soccer areas.
Yeah.
I mean, like all of a sudden there's like Louisiana. I mean, for a period of time, and then all of a sudden there's been some very good players that have come out of Louisiana. And so there's there's good players all over. They just need the opportunity to showcase their talent, and they can move up the ladder. And sometimes they just need the opportunity. They just need somebody to see them and say, "Hey, oh, this kid can play. Let's see if we can get him into a better environment, or let's get him into a pro club and see what he does." And then all of a sudden, we've got this new player.
Yeah. How about the social media, the tools of the internet and so forth of filming?
Well, I think it's funny. I was at a clinic the other day, and they were talking about, I think, Instagram, and somebody says, "Well, don't talk to Bill about it. He doesn't know what it is." So social media is not, I am on Facebook, yes, and that's about it. But I don't know too much about Instagram and TikTok and all that. That's way above my pay grade, my age. Yeah. But I think there's ways for kids, and even games, they have these. They have their games videotaped, and people can pull them up. Is it Vimo or something like? Maybe that's a money
streaming
thing. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
These streaming things where they can do that, which is good. That gets they send it out to different people, and people will see it, and if they like it, then they'll follow up on it. So I think some of it is good, and then I think some of the social media is bad.
Yeah.
But again, that's an old guy talking.
Okay.
I have, at the minute, I've the privilege of working with. I was asked to coach this United States medical soccer team, and they're all doctors.
Wow.
Okay, they're all doctors, and I've been asked. There's a men's open team, which I think you have to be under. I think that's open to any age. Then you have a masters team, which is you have to be 45 and over, and then they just brought in this women's team, which is open, but it's 7-a-side, and I happen to have the privilege of coaching three of these players before, 2 at the University of Portland and 1 on the national team, and they're all playing, and they're all doctors, and they have to prove. They have to, prove that they're doctors before they. And we're going to a medical World Cup in July in Dublin. So we're going to play teams from, I think, Mexico, Canada, Australia,
wow,
England, Ireland. So and these are all doctors. So it's amazing, that I've had the privilege, because of these three players I coached before, that they asked me to be their coach, and it's an honor to be with them. And I mean, a lot of stuff they talk about goes over my head.
Yeah.
But again, see, there's another level of play, and these guys, I don't know where they get the time to play, and they play regular and stuff like that with their job, and I think we had an event there in Atlanta, and I think it was between the four teams. I said there's two Masters men's teams, which is A and B, and then an open team, and then a women's team. There was about 60 doctors out there, at a weekend, and then they're all heading to Dublin to challenge for this World Cup thing. So again, there's levels for everybody, and then at the minute so hopefully hopefully some young doctors out there that play soccer will hear this and look into it. So
absolutely.
I'm plugging this team at the minute on your show. So, but
I'm glad you did. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, and I think some of the games are going to be streamed from Dublin. So if you want to have a look at it, maybe you can. Or you can even go. I think there's websites and all, Kevin, that you can look into to see more about the program, and maybe you can promote it for us.
Absolutely, without a doubt.
There's. I mean, at the minute, there's regionals going on for different. Especially here in the West, there's teams going to regionals, and there's going to be loads of scouts at that. There's academies playing,
Yeah.
And I think they're winding up. I think they're in Nashville this week, or maybe they're finishing up this week. For the summer, and so there's a level for everybody to play.
Yes.
And if you want to get better, then it's you have to do the work.
Yeah, the ball on the wall.
Yeah, you have to do the work. I think I read a book, or somebody told me about a book where it was somebody about playing tennis in Russia, where they so many hours, like some ridiculous number of hours that these tennis players played, and I can't even remember the book. Just hitting tennis balls, different shots, and the kids they don't need. I think some of the kids, hey, I've only got practice. I've got practice Tuesday, Thursday, but what about Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
Yeah.
2 days a week's not going to cut it. If you want to get to the top of the pyramid. So again, this is an old guy speaking, and well, I hope some of it makes sense.
Well, it was. I mean, you were dollars, man. The deal was, when I was a youth, before I would go to bed, I would flip the ball up and try to catch the ball with my a grip of hands.
Yeah.
Well, I had a couple injuries with the nose and the black eyes, but it all came out to where, man, you have that sense of you stop and I mean, I think I fell asleep a couple times doing that. It was like, instead of counting sheep, I was catching balls.
Balls, and you can see when it pays off. You can see players that when it pays off, and it's great.
Yeah. Okay, then. So we'll talk off air, get all that information, and we'll if you like to have another podcast or send me to somebody to talk about it.
And anytime, Kevin. It's a pleasure to talk to you and getting word out about the game. The more we have out there, the better. And I appreciate you taking your time to give me a call and talk on your podcast.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, maybe I'll get Don Draghi to call in.
Yeah, get him. Yeah, get Don. Hey, there's a lot. I mean, you're in that hotbed, right?
Yeah.
Actually, one of the coaches on the open team, right, is Joe. Oh, sure, I forget his last name.
Clark.
Joe Clark is the coach on the men's side of that. he's got the open team, Joe Clark, and Joe and I know each other through
Yes.
coaching against each other. So there's a man to talk to as well, Joe Clark.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
he's in your backyard.
He's been Wales certified, and by the way, you are Wales certified, Bill Irwin. Yeah, baby. Yeah.
Thank you.
And his brother Charlie is the official car dealership on Wales certified.
Okay.
Charlie's
All right.
Charlie's Choice Cars. And
Okay.
for Wales certified, it's the only choice.
Yeah, and don't forget Dan Dunnigan there too.
Oh, I don't know the lad. I've
You
always.
don't know, he's running. There's a few of the ex players running. Moving back to St. Louis.
Yeah.
And running teams there. They're all in your backyard. Get them on.
Yeah. I've
them on.
only heard of the name. I've never met the man, so I'm looking forward to it.
They would love to, I'm sure they'd love to get on here, Dan Dunnigan, and there's some of them that ex-pro players, national team players, and MLS coaches that have gone back into the youth game in St. Louis, so
yeah,
get them on there.
There's been 334 episodes of Wales Certified, and you're one of the best, baby. I guarantee. Bill Irwin.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, and it's always a custom at Wales Certified to say, hey, Bill, whatever you want to say to who you ever want to say it to, for as long as you want to say it for. This is your opportunity.
No, I just want to say, hey, if you're a soccer player, get out there, get out working, work hard, and if you're a coach, get out there and help the players become better, and make sure that these players, if you're a coach or a player, that you play with a smile on your face, because it's the greatest game in the world.
Yes.
There you go.
And you just put yourself in the Hall of Fame, Bill. You in the Wales Certified Hall of Fame, baby.
All right, buddy. Okay.
All right, then. Cheerio.
All right.
The best.
Okay, take care. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Kevin. Take care.
Okay.
Bye.